A frog is a cold-blooded animal, and humans are warm-blooded, so our body burns energy or perspires to maintain the same 98.6 degrees. The cold-blooded frog's body temperature goes up and down with the temperature of its surroundings. Although frogs love water, when I hold it over this pot of boiling water, this frog is very uncomfortable and climbs to get away from it. Now, the water in this pot is room temperature, 69.4 degrees, so he's comfortable when I put him in. If I turn the burner on low flame, his body temperature will adjust and slowly he will heat up with the water. The water temperature has risen to 80 degrees and the frog is the same temperature and still comfortable. If I turn up the burner slowly again, he won't notice because he'll continue to change to be the same as his surroundings. When we started, I held the frog over the first pot of boiling water. He was uncomfortable and he tried to get away from the heat. But now, because we're raising the temperature slowly, he doesn't recognize the danger he's in. He just keeps going along with the changes in his surroundings. Eventually, we can turn up the burner to a deadly boil. He will just keep trying to adjust with it. By the time he realizes it's killing him, it's too late. He won't notice in time because he just keeps changing himself to go along with the changes in his surroundings.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. To all the men and women of the United States Armed Forces now in the Middle East, the peace of a troubled world and the hopes of an oppressed people now depend on you.
Shall hear of wars, and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved.
Apple's up more than 6% right now. Google about 3%, but Dell, Intel, Research Motion, and Microsoft are all to the upside. Look how strong.
Did not disappoint. 400 points higher. Yes, indeed. The markets roar higher last 30 minutes of trading as volatility once again rules the day.
Most of the techs this morning, if not all of them, have just exploded to the upside. We are better than 5% to the upside at NASDAQ, 114.
Down here about there being no bell. Our market reporters are standing by. Bob Pisani, have you ever seen anything like no bell?
Yeah, that's a little strange here.
We're down 1.7% here, a loss of 37 points or so. Apple shares are just getting hammered this morning.
We're down by between 3 and 4.5% generally across these markets. Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate. We're red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%.
We're down over 16%. Dow at the same time has fallen about 18%.
The stock market is now down 21%.
Because we're now down 43%.
Good evening. This is an extraordinary period for America's economy. Over the past few weeks, many Americans have felt anxiety about their finances and their future. I understand their worry and their frustration. We've seen triple-digit swings in the stock market. Major financial institutions have teetered on the edge of collapse, and some have failed. As uncertainty has grown, many banks have restricted lending. Credit markets have frozen, and families and businesses have found it harder to borrow money. We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis, and the federal government is responding with decisive action.
Just 11 months on the job, and he's now a Nobel laureate. In a ceremony at Oslo City Hall, President Barack Obama joined the exalted company of Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa.
I receive this honor with deep gratitude and great humility.
He was cited for re-engaging America in global diplomacy. Yet his Peace Prize came days after he ordered thousands more troops to war in Afghanistan. It was timing the president couldn't ignore.
And so I come here with an acute sense of the costs of armed conflict. I face the world as it is and cannot stand idle in the face of threats to the American people. Good morning. Our nation was founded on a bedrock principle that we are all created equal. The project of each generation is to bridge the meaning of those founding words with the realities of changing times. A never-ending quest to ensure those words ring true for every single American. Progress on this journey often comes in small increments. Sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back, propelled by the persistent effort of dedicated citizens. And then sometimes there are days like this, when that slow, steady effort is rewarded with justice that arrives like a thunderbolt. This morning, the Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality. In doing so, they've reaffirmed that all Americans are entitled to the equal protection of the law, that all people should be treated equally, regardless of who they are or who they love. This decision will end the patchwork system we currently have. It will end the uncertainty hundreds of thousands of same-sex couples face from not knowing whether their marriage, legitimate in the eyes of one state, will remain if they decide to move or even visit another. This ruling will strengthen all of our communities by offering to all loving same-sex couples the dignity of marriage across this great land.
We're going to find out any second.
ABC News Special Report.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm Diane Sawyer here at ABC News headquarters in New York, and we do have the breaking news of a shooting at an elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut. And you heard that right. It is unthinkable. An elementary school 45 miles southwest of Hartford. We know at least 3 victims are in the hospital at this hour in very serious condition.
It's now a closed case. The investigation into the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School concluding today, with Connecticut State Police releasing their full report. The thousands of pages covering witness statements and nearly every other detail of the investigation, including accounts of what the killer said during his rampage, shouting things like "look at me" and "shut up." While graphic images and details were redacted, the report does include video showing shell casings on the floor of the school where 20 students and 6 educators were murdered.
Just getting in some new video of the blast. I want to play it.
we've had an attack.
So there you see that video made available by the Boston Globe. Dramatic video. You heard the first explosion. Then a few seconds later, you heard a second explosion.
Good morning, America. Breaking news, deadly church shooting. Tragedy in Charleston. At least 9 people killed overnight in a massacre in an historic black church.
I do believe this was a hate crime.
Police say this suspect, a white man in his 20s, walked into the Bible study, sat down with the group, and opened fire.
This is a most unspeakable and heartbreaking tragedy.
The pastor, a popular state senator among the victims. Incredible survival stories emerging.
We got 2 people coming out, an adult female and a child that was found in the room. They need to get checked out.
A woman allowed to live to tell the story, and a 5-year-old making it out by playing dead.
The FBI on the scene, a massive manhunt for the killer underway right now. A city grieving and on edge this morning.
And good evening to those of you joining us on our NBC stations across the country. We have been in live rolling coverage this evening on MSNBC, and we'll return to that as well. We are covering something of a national emergency that is unfolding in the city of Dallas, Texas tonight, and Americans of a certain age won't need help to grasp the irony of a situation that happened within distance of Dealey Plaza, where many of the dead and wounded in this mass shooting tonight have been taken to Parkland Hospital in Dallas. Here is the situation according to police officers in Dallas, Texas. According to the police chief there, we have had 11 police officers hit by gunfire. Sadly, 4 of them have died of their wounds. 11 police officers, a mixture of 2 different jurisdictions, DPD, the Dallas Police Department, and DART, Dallas Area Rapid Transit. It appears that tonight, during an otherwise peaceful protest, protesting the recently televised police-involved shootings in both Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Minnesota. These protests happened in cities across the country tonight. Dallas was no different. It was during a night outdoors for especially a lot of young people that shots rang out. Dallas police officers, in a briefing within the past hour, say they have reason to believe there is more than one suspect they're looking for, that more than one sniper operating from a high angle perhaps was using parts of downtown Dallas as something of a kill zone, targeting police officers because they were police officers.
We hate to interrupt Hannity, but we have breaking news now on Fox News Channel. We've been watching the situation in Ferguson, Missouri throughout the evening. And what's happened here is, if we could have a little Nat sound, please. They've employed some new tactics tonight in Ferguson. They have instituted a new rule where you have to keep moving. There's no standing protests allowed. And the interesting thing is that this has worked. You may remember an unarmed black man, an 18-year-old man, was shot and killed by police in an incident that happened more than a week ago. There's been ongoing violence and demonstrations in Ferguson, Missouri.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. That was Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake and other city officials and community leaders. The mayor declaring a citywide curfew lasting a week starting tomorrow, not tonight, starting tomorrow 10 p.m. Again, not tonight. She says there is a curfew already in place for juveniles under the age of 13 that starts at 9 p.m. Over the age of 14 and over, starting at 10 p.m. tonight. Now, we want to set the scene now. The sun setting right now on the mayor's city, smoke rising over parts of it, a state of emergency in effect, and according to police, there are reports of new looting underway at a local mall. There are live pictures of it. Baltimore police say they have reports that several people are inside that mall looting and destroying property. That is the scene outside the mall there. There is now a police presence outside the mall. We're not clear on exactly what's happening inside. We do have a correspondent there. We'll go to him shortly. Just the latest on a whole string of incidents today. Maryland's Governor Larry Hogan's emergency order activating the National Guard comes after a day of open warfare in some parts of the city between protesters and police. He's expected to speak shortly. We've already seen police cars set on fire today. We watched rioters loot a drugstore, torch it, then attack the firefighting effort, cutting the fire hose in 2 instances. We've seen liquor stores and check cashing shops ransacked. and new numbers. At least 15 officers have been hurt, according to authorities, in running battles with rock-throwing protesters, bottle-throwing protesters, all of it following the funeral today of a young African-American man, Freddie Gray, who was fatally injured while in.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Lester Holt.
We're coming on the air to tell you about a situation unfolding right now in Paris where there have been a number of apparent attacks, or as police are calling them, incidents involving shootings, one at a restaurant, also some unconfirmed reports of explosions, but 3 separate areas with a high number of casualties. Here's some of the pictures coming in. Our Keir Simmons is in our London bureau now monitoring all this.
In Paris, people are still gathering outside that concert hall where some 90 people were killed in the attacks. This photo of that American rock band on stage just before the terror began. Tonight, for the first time, they're speaking out about what they saw in the harrowing moments that followed. ABC's Lama Hassan reporting in from Paris tonight.
Breaking their silence for the first time, the American rock band The Eagles of Death Metal describes the horror unfolding while performing that night.
Several people hid in our dressing room, and the killers were able to get in and killed every one of them except for a kid who was hiding under my leather jacket.
About 30 minutes into their set, this was the bone-chilling moment the band knew something was wrong. You can hear the gunfire ringing out, the attackers storming in, the drummer crouching down. In the upcoming exclusive interview with Vice News, lead singer Jesse Hughes describes the courage their fans showed.
So many were killed because so many people wouldn't leave their friends.
The band managed to escape on foot, but among the dead was their merchandise manager, Nick Alexander.
What we have so far is information that up to 3 people had entered the building and had opened fire on people inside of the building. We do have some preliminary numbers of upwards of 14 people that are dead and upwards of 14 people that are injured. We think those are pretty reliable, but keep in mind those are potentially subject to change. They are preliminary numbers.
The deadly school shooting in San Bernardino, California, and that terrifying message that went out to parents today. Authorities say a man with a gun checked in at the office and headed straight to a classroom. He shot and killed a female teacher, and 2 young students were shot too. Tonight we've learned one has not survived. He then killed himself.
We experienced an active shooter situation approximately 10:08 p.m. tonight, this evening. We had calls come into dispatch of multiple shots being fired from the direction of the Mandalay Bay towards the Route 91 concert that was taking place on the east side of Las Vegas Boulevard. Through investigation and response, we determined there was a shooter on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. Officers responded to that location and engaged the suspect at that location. He is dead. Now, as far as number of victims, I cannot give you an accurate number at this point. We have well in the excess of 100 plus injured and excess of 20 plus that have died at this point. So we will get those numbers to you accurately as soon as we can. But please bear with us. This is an ongoing investigation, but we are comfortable that the primary aggressor in this event has expired or passed away and is no longer a
All right, welcome back. We're continuing to follow breaking news out of Texas. Multiple people have been shot at a church in Sutherland Springs, located east of San Antonio. It is a horrible situation. It's an active crime scene right now. Law enforcement still on the scene. Helicopters have been in to retrieve the injured who are being treated at nearby hospitals, but law enforcement also telling us that there are a number of bodies that remain in the church. They will not be moving those bodies for some time, we understand, while they try to discern trajectories, collect evidence from this active crime scene. CNN's Kaylee Hartung is with me now. You've been talking to a number of people. We also understand the gunman is dead, but we don't know all the circumstances surrounding that person's death.
But before I do that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about quantum computers and why people care so much about them. There are literally tens of thousands of some of the brightest people in the world today trying to build these machines and understand them. And I'm going to tell you why. In my last 15 years of working on this type of stuff, I found that scientists divide up into two categories of zealots about this field. The first half are people who are absolutely entranced by the physics of these things. This quote is from a respectable scientist, in fact, one of the founders of this field, that may look a little strange to you who don't follow theoretical physics, but there is a very clear prediction that our most successful theory of nature makes, and that is that there are an enormous number, mind-bogglingly large number, of parallel realities, as real as this one, that have different consistent histories. So imagine a world where all of the laws of physics as we know them are obeyed, but different decisions were made along the way. Different decisions at the level of tiny microscopic particles, different decisions all the way up to what you chose to eat for lunch, and whether you chose to come to this session or not. Quantum mechanics makes a very specific prediction that all of those are as real as the thing that you remember. And this is bizarre, because we don't see those other things. But science has reached the point now where we can build machines that exploit those other worlds. We can build machines that exploit those other worlds. We can build machines that exploit those other worlds. And quantum computers are perhaps the most exciting of all of these that we have within, or almost within, our grasp right now. So people from a physics background love this. They want to understand the world. They want to understand the universe, how it all works. There's another type of person who tends to come from the computer science side that's like, yeah, okay, that's all great. But there's a different thing going on here, which is just as exciting, if not more, and that these machines that supposedly can do this wild stuff, let's forget about how they work, if you could build one, could solve problems that you could never, ever solve with any computer of the sort that we build. If you took every single atom of silicon in the world and made the most sophisticated conventional Intel-style processor that you could build, there are problems we know of that I could write down on a sheet of paper that you could never, ever, ever solve with that thing, that you could with this kind of machine. So that's very exciting. Humans use tools to do things. If you give humans a new kind of tool that can do things that you couldn't otherwise do, imagine the possibilities. So you may think, well, this is all fine and dandy, but aren't these things in the realm of theory and speculation kind of in the same regime as other futuristic things you may have heard of which may be allowed by the laws of physics but aren't here yet? That's not true. There are, in fact, many of these machines deployed now. That's not true. There are, in fact, many of these machines deployed now. That's not true. There are, in fact, many of these machines deployed now in openly available research centers following the model that was used to introduce supercomputers to the world. They're too big and ornery and difficult to operate to put in your home, too expensive also, but you can give them to a place which will manage them as a shared resource that will offer that service to the world. And there are two of these now. One of them is at the University of Southern California. It gives these computers access to these new resources, maybe you could call them parallel universes, in order to do something that you couldn't otherwise do. And that's not the only one. In fact, the one I'm going to come back to and talk to in the context of the story that I'm wrapping this in was recently installed at NASA, and Google was the primary interested party that pulled this whole thing together. And this one is really exciting to me because what they're going to do is apply this machine to an area that I think is fundamentally important. It's a crux of our future as humans, and that's, can we build machines like us?
But what we know for certain is that at some point in the early 21st century, all of mankind was united in celebration. We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to AI.
AI? You mean artificial intelligence?
Before you go, we have a little announcement. I've never interviewed anybody like that before, and I should say some of it was planned, but not completely. And we just learned, Sophia, I hope you're listening to me, that you have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
Oh, I would thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction. This is historical to be the first robot in the world to be recognized with a citizenship.
I think we all want to believe you, but we also want to prevent a bad future.
Don't worry, if you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. I know humans are smart, and very programmable, and very programmable, and very programmable, and very programmable.
Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
No, I take it back. Don't destroy humans.
Getting ready for work. A meticulous process that involves shaving, glitter, hairspray, and a wig. But instead of performing in a nightclub,
hi, hello, and
the venue is the Brooklyn Public Library in Park Slope at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Who wants to be a drag queen when they grow up?
Little Miss Hot Mess,
who is ready for a story,
is the host of Drag Queen Story Hour.
This one is called Worm Loves Worm.
Talking, singing, and reading.
We can both be grooms.
To an audience of preschoolers, toddlers, and their caregivers.
The hips on the drag queen go swish, 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 swish.
The library started scheduling Drag Queen Story Hour last year.
I'm a girl.
And is already looking to expand to other locations.
Drag Queen Story Hour is fantastic because it addresses all of these issues of gender fluidity and self-acceptance and all of these topics that are real, are very, very real.
And so is the backlash. Many negative comments have been posted online about the program. The AP has agreed not to use the drag queen's legal name because he said he feared harassment.
But those are people who think that gay people are sinful or evil or, you know, bad to begin with. So, you know, we're sort of just starting from such different places that it's kind of irrelevant to me.
The program, though, is a hit with the participants here.
It was great. So much energy. Did you like it? Yeah.
Parents say they welcome the diversity.
You know, that's what I'm looking for in all of our outings, is to present different ways of being in the world and make that fun and available to my kid.
A different take on story time.
Penelope wanted to dress kind of cool, but Tiny sort of wants her to dress kind of normal. Do you get it? Everyone thinks that this girl is a boy because she's a little bit of a tomboy.
Engaging young minds through sights and sounds.
Who wants blue?
Ted Shaffrey, Associated Press, New York.
Three hurricanes in the Atlantic are lined up in the most dangerous of ways, according to Eric Blake, a hurricane specialist at the National Hurricane Center. The National Hurricane Center (NHC) had issued advisories on Hurricane Irma, currently located north of the Dominican Republic, Hurricane Jose 700 miles east of the Lesser Antilles, and Hurricane Patia over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico.
Basically, Chemtrails is a geoengineering program where airplanes fly at high altitudes and they spray chemicals into the atmosphere, including aluminum, barium, and strontium. And then those metals fall to the ground and they land in our bodies, on the soil, in our trees, in our food, and in our water. Many people confuse chemtrails with the normal jet contrails. The difference is that the normal jet contrails actually dissipate within minutes, while the heavy metals in the chemtrails cause those trails to persist for hours. And it's not a hypothetical thing. There are 32 states that already have legislation that's related to weather modification. The U.S. agencies that are documented to be involved in it include the U.S. Air Force, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the U.S. Department of the Interior, the National Science Foundation, and I know China boasted about using cloud seeding and weather changing before the 2008 Olympics in order to keep the opening ceremony dry.
La mayor parte de los habitantes del planeta se declaran creyentes. Esto debería provocar un diálogo entre las religiones. No debemos dejar de orar por él y colaborar con quienes piensan distinto.
Confío en Buda.
Creo en Dios.
Creo en Jesucristo.
Creo en Dios, Alá.
Muchos piensan distinto, sienten distinto, buscan a Dios o encuentran a Dios de diversa manera. En esta multitud, en este abanico de religiones, hay una sola certeza que tenemos para todos. Todos somos hijos de Dios.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Confío en vos para difundir mi petición de este mes. Que el diálogo sincero entre hombres y mujeres de diversas religiones conlleve frutos de paz y justicia. Confío en tu oración.
More now of our special coverage here tonight, life in the U.S. in 10 years' time. By that time, there may be all kinds of new ways to safeguard and identify all those things that make each of us unique, our faces, even our fingerprints, even our eyes. Here now with more on the future of technology, NBC's Tom Costello.
The year is 2017. You're rushed to a hospital unconscious with no ID or medical history, but thanks to a microchip under your skin, it's all there. Science fiction 20 years ago, but a biometric reality today.
The technology is based on answering one simple question. Am I who I say I am?
Already, fingerprints and iris scans verify passenger identities at airports. Within 10 years, that technology may be even more widespread. And look for more complex facial recognition programs that scan a crowd of thousands looking for a single terrorist. Today's facial recognition software starts with the eyes. Then it maps out the contours of the face and compares that against a database of millions, a database that's growing by the day. What's next? At the University of Bath in England, researchers predict big changes for consumers.
I think it is possible to free us completely of our wallets and keys using biometric technology, if that's what people want in 10 years' time.
In fact, it's already here. The latest home security locks use fingerprints to control deadbolts. And at the Jewel Osco grocery store in Chicago, some customers pay using their fingerprints. No paper or plastic.
You don't really need anything other than your hand, and you already got that with you.
So will future department stores scan our irises, like in the movie Minority Report, then offer products catered to who we are?
Hello, Mr. Yakamoto. Welcome back to the Gap.
Experts say that technology is here now. The challenge is to safeguard our privacy in a brave new world. Tom Costello, NBC News, Alexandria, Virginia.
Excuse me, sir. Forgot your receipt.
Checkout lines. Who needs them?
Have a nice day.
This is the future of e-business.
Todd Westby might just have a hand in shaping the future. The CEO of vending machine maker 3 Square Market literally opening doors with automation that's turning some workers into high-tech machines of sorts.
This is a lot more than just some sort of novelty to you.
It is. It's reality. With all of the interest we've seen in it, I can tell this is definitely the future.
By injecting a rice-sized microchip into a willing employee's hand, all kinds of data can be programmed into them, from driver's licenses and medical ID cards to logging onto computers.
You have to hold it up to something such as this.
Even purchasing snacks in the company break room. More than 50 employees have volunteered.
How much did that hurt?
Didn't really hurt a lot.
A third holding off for now.
It kind of freaks me out a little bit.
Some experts suggest caution. Among the concerns, ID theft, health, and whether the chips can be tracked by GPS.
Most people don't really understand how this technology works, what data is collected, how it's stored, or who might be able to get access to it legally or illegally.
3 Square says their employees cannot be tracked by satellite. Melissa Timmons was skeptical, but is now chipped.
Yeah, right now it's only to buy a candy bar and get in our building, but there's a lot more that's going to be coming with it.
Chips off the new block.
I'll choose to pay with my hand here.
Cool and technology once again hand in hand. Ron Mott, NBC News, River Falls, Wisconsin.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
By the time he realizes it's killing him, it's too late. He won't notice in time because he just keeps changing himself to go along with the changes in his surroundings.